Vivek, we can start if you want.
Certainly, sure. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you today. It gives me pleasure to announce the next LinkedIn Local India Online. The theme for today is Career Transition for Veterans. My name is Vivek Chadha, and I, along with Preeti Chaudhary and Colonel Amit Verma, will be your host for today. I thank the panel to come here today, taking out the time to share the valuable insights with all of us here. For the questions, please keep them ready and put them in the chat box that you see at the bottom of your screen. We will have the opportunity to ask after the panel has spoken and we start the Q&A. I thank all of you to come here and participate in the next LinkedIn Local India Online and hope that you derive immense value from the same. I'm very excited that this panel has come together and we are doing this today. So without much further ado, I request Preeti to introduce LinkedIn Local to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Vivek. Very wants to run through the concept of LinkedIn Local. LinkedIn Local India is a LinkedIn property. It is an online to offline business social meetup concept wherein members who are either connected to each other or not yet connected to each other meet, connect, communicate, collaborate, learn, and leverage in a fun and stress-free environment. With the new normal, what has happened is we've moved this whole process virtual. So here we are virtually on this career transition veterans. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this ride with me. Welcome once again. I'm looking forward to this evening. Over to you, Vivek.
Amit, I would want please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks, Preeti. It's been an exciting journey with LinkedIn Local India. It's almost like yesterday when we did the first event in August, and that was the first event that I participated with you. And now that we are in double digits since March in our online avatar, the things look more and more exciting, and especially the activity that we did with Lowe. That was the highlight of the lockdown, if I can say that. Even though the Zoom fatigue has crept in, nobody is smiling much. And I'm pretty sure the attendees there are ready to get cracking at the panel with questions. Just a small advice there. This is a networking event. Do maintain the professional decorum. There are issues that we have discussed earlier. Those who are connected with me, we will definitely benefit from today's event in getting knowledge and advice. Let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amit. I'll introduce the panel. We have a stellar panel today, and I'm very, very excited. We have with us Liju Thomas. He's the Director, HR Transportation at Amazon. He's based out of Bangalore. We have Akash Srivastava. He's the Vice President, North, East, and Central India at Schindler. He's based out of Gurgaon. We have Shiv Kumar, who heads the talent acquisition at Lowe India. He's based out of Bangalore. And we have Venkata Raman, who's Vice President and Head of Administration at Wells Fargo, and he's based out of Hyderabad. I heartily welcome all our panelists here, and I look forward to your thoughts today. Thank you. Preeti, please.
Thank you for that, Vivek. Not only that, we do have some guests with us here today as well. And the guest list sort of include two cross sections of professionals. We have some veterans who have already transitioned from the forces to corporate, and we have some peer leaders from other companies who are here to partake into some peer learning. So quickly, let me just introduce the guests here today. From the veterans that have transitioned into corporates, we have Dr. Major Rupinder Kaur, who's a leadership researcher and coach, ex-ENY, DNI enthusiast. We have Colonel Abraham Cherian, who is VP Analytics, CRE at HSBC. We have Vivek Kalia, who's the head of Business Ops, India and South Asia at Avas Group Incorporated. And from the industry, we have Naina Agarwal, who's the VP of Campus Programming, India and Philippines at Wells Fargo. We have Vinay Trivedi here, who's the head HR at ToneTag India. We have Jitendra Panihar, who's the global head People and Culture at Mo Engage Inc. Aditya Pal Singh, Director of Talent Acquisition India at Informatica. Ritika Maitra, Lead Diversity and Inclusion at GAP. We have Prachi Rastogi, who's the Diversity and Inclusion Leader, South Asia, India at IBM. And Dr. Ankita Singh, VP and Global Head of HR, Admin and Travel at Signex Datamatics. So once again, welcome everybody. A very, very good evening to all. And I'm looking forward to today. With that, let's get started. And no other way but to quickly introduce the topic, which is career transition for veterans. The whole reason why industry leaders who are veteran friendly hiring companies are here today amongst us to help us understand the nuances of transition and to make it smoother for our brothers and sisters who are into this situation or who would be in the near future. With that in mind, may I request Liju to please come forward, share your views, challenges, any piece of advice, your perspective on this whole topic of career transition for veterans from your perspective, from Amazon side, whichever way you would like to take it. Over to you, Liju. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you for having me here. It's my first LinkedIn local event, but I look forward to this evening. And I think you summarized it well, saying that the opportunity is for learning and also having fun. So let's stay true to that objective. First of all, a big salute, a big respect to all who have served the country or serving the country in uniform. I think the other day I was saying that the closest that I have come to serving the country was about being an aspirant to join the uniform, and it ended there. So whenever you see a person who is in uniform or transitioned out of uniform, that respect and regard stays big in my mind. So let me start out with that note. I currently lead HR for some parts of Amazon's fulfillment network, which is what touches the customer. So extremely proud of it, of being close to the customers, and that's what we are in the country for, right? Today, what I will try and do is I'll try and focus on two different topics. One is a bit of an introduction about Amazon and Amazon's veteran program and why it makes sense for us. And the second part is based on my experience, what are some of my takeaways and learnings that I wanted to leave with some of you who are transitioning or trying to transition into corporate, right? So that's how I want to structure the two parts of my conversation. But I look forward to learning with all of you out here. Speaking about the military veteran program in Amazon, I think it's a big part of who we are and our focus on diversity and inclusion, right? Globally, the company believes in having a very diverse workforce and enabling people across demographics and social strata, right? We believe it's good for business, and not just that, we believe it's simply the right thing to do, right? So it's core to our ecosystem and core to our ethos and how we believe as a company in having a diverse group of people join us, right? It's a very evolved program for Amazon globally, starting many years back. And if you do a little bit of research, you would have seen a lot of public announcements made in 2016, 2017, wherein Amazon went out and committed to hiring about 25,000 military veterans in the United States. And we are following through on that commitment that is made. And similarly in other parts of the globe, right? Coming closer in India, we are still in early days. Our efforts in a programmatic way is about a year old, and we are making some early starts in that, but pretty excited about what we are seeing and the progress that we have made in the past 1 year, right? So that's where the program is. And from Amazon's perspective, I think I spoke about how we believe it's a part of our inclusion and diversity, but I also wanted to speak about why does it make sense for us. Two, three things out there. One is, we're a highly customer obsessed company, right? And that's our probably the top leadership principle that Amazon espouses, right? And when you look at a trained military person, I think there is a big match of value systems there, right? As in uniform, I think there is already a belief that you work, the nation comes first, your battalion comes next, or your troops comes next, and then you, right? So working backwards to a larger thought process, working for the nation, right? And dedicating your life for that is something we believe is very close to our own philosophy of working backwards from the customer, right? And not just that, right? I think we as a company adapt to meet the customer requirements on a day-to-day basis, and I think in military, the adaptability that is built into your training is highly valued in our environment, right? Um, uh, going a little bit beyond this one, I'm saying, the 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 two leadership principles Amazon talks about a lot is bias for action and deliver results, right? Uh, who better than somebody who is trained on mission critical assignments when delivery of results is a matter of life and death, right? So, so just to summarize, what I'm saying is the value systems of a military training and the value systems of Amazon, there's a close match, right? And hence, the military as a channel of hiring has worked immensely well for Amazon over the years and will continue to do so, is our firm belief. And hence a huge commitment to the program in India as well. Moving to the second part of what I said is I will leave a little bit of few thoughts for you based on my own experience. And I said I'm not a veteran and I don't have the live experience, but this is more what I gathered through my proximity to the program over the years. But I think a few things that I wanted to leave you with us. First and foremost, I think don't overthink the transition, right? It is something going to be a something you're going to easily make, but do plan it out, right? Don't overthink and make it complex, but do plan it out, right? And the first first advice that I have for you is play to your strengths, right? And what I mean by that is I get a lot of questions about, hey, as an officer, I've been in the business of handling people. Maybe I should take HR, right? I think that's probably a myopic approach. I'm not discouraging you from joining HR, but what I mean to say is, think about all what the military has groomed you for, right? There are combat arms which are extremely good at operations, right? You have several staff roles where you're extremely good at managing projects and programs, right? And you have highly technical sides of the military, right? All of them teach you, coach you for a certain life. So be broad-based about your strengths, find the opportunities that connects with those strengths and pick those, right? Rather than taking a job. Join something that you're passionate about, right? Point number two, right? Prepare for a world that is more loose and abstract, right? Role clarity is difficult to come in the corporate sector nowadays, and more so in the future, right? So, the bias for a protocol or following a chain of command, right, is a limitation in a corporate world. So prepare for a world which is much more loosely constructed. Prepare for a dotted line reporting, and that's how the world is going to be, right? You can do it. It's, as I said, adaptability is a virtue that we see in all of you, but get ahead of that. Point number three, get ready for a world which is new to you, which is a little different from what you're used to. You're used to being in a world where you had a lot of like-minded people groomed to a certain standard and who bonded well and created a support around each other. As you step into a corporate world, you may not have the same kind of support systems around you. Build that for you. And building that means, what I mean to say is, connect more with the world outside. Uh, connect with people. Build a coaching circle around you. Right. Network well. Right. And that's going to hold you in good stead as you make the transition. Right. Point number 4. And my and my last point is seek purpose in what you're doing. Right. It is you have lived a life like that. Right. Keep that virtue and double down on that. Right. Um, when you join a company, or when you even outside the company, find purpose. Right. It could be in the form of coaching, it could be in the form of community engagement. Right. But that will make the transition easier, because all of you have served with purpose. And when you come into a corporate world, you need to find a similar purpose. It may be in the job, it may be an extension of the job, or it may be outside your job. Right. But that's important for the transition. Right. I just want to conclude with my summary. As I started off with, don't overthink. You're going to make it happen. Keep it simple. Keep it firm. Learn from leaders who have walked the path before you, and you should be fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Liju. As a veteran sponsor for Amazon in India, I think those were pearls of wisdom, if imbibed correctly, would stand a lot of our brothers and sisters in good stead. So I absolutely appreciate that. Before we move on to our next speaker, a gentle and quick reminder for all the attendees. Dear people, this webinar is for you. It is an interactive webinar. And to make that so, please keep those questions coming into the question and answer box, which is right under your screens here. We will be taking up live questions, as you know, from our past webinars. Once we've had the initial discussions out, please imbibe each and everything that the speakers are saying, because that will give you food for thought for those questions and comments coming up later. For the industry and peer also, your comments and queries are welcome. I know there are some of you that would like to walk the same path in terms of veteran hiring. So thank you so much for joining us today to take a leaf out of these, starting off into the path of veteran hiring and to do more in this space, something which is very close to our hearts. So once again, thank you very much. Keep those questions and comments coming in. And with that, I move on next to Akash. And Akash the other day had sort of mentioned that he had to go through a couple of mindsets while he was working in his company, So he will take us through that journey. And also quickly, Akash, a couple of advice, couple of experiences from your personal and professional side, again on the topic of career transition for veterans, please, your views. Over to you. Thank you, Akash.
Thank you, Preeti. Good evening, everybody. First of all, thanks, Preeti, for having me as a panelist. In fact, like I have addressed a lot of upcoming MBAs, a lot of upcoming engineers, but I never thought that I will be actually addressing military veterans. So the very thought of that I can make a difference is something that I'm going to cherish for times to come. So thank you for having me as a panelist. So now coming back to the topic, I will say that this topic assumes a lot of significance in the context of what is happening around us today. Because, like a lot of companies and industries are going through a major transformation. For some industries, like this is like a temporary setback. COVID is a temporary setback. But for some other industries, this might be a transformational crisis. When I say transformational crisis, I think some of them are actually looking at the ways that they are functioning. They're looking at the ways that they are basically hiring people. And that can actually have a major impact when it comes to a topic like career transition for a military veteran. And the perspective that I'm going to talk now is slightly different. So I'm going to talk from the company perspective, looking at the current crisis when it comes to a transition like other than the veterans, the companies are also going through a transition. And this career transition for veterans and then transforming into company assumes a lot of significance because there has to be synergy, yeah, between the veterans and the companies which are hiring them. If there's a breakdown of synergy between two of them, I think then this win-win proposition for the corporates as well as the veterans, I think that is something that actually becomes quite questionable. So now, if I talk from the perspective of Schindler, I think Schindler is a very good example. Like as you mentioned, I I actually joined Schindler in 2009, and Schindler is actually a Swiss-based company which is actually into manufacturing of elevators, escalators, and moving walks. So again, if you look at our origin, we always prefer hiring people from the technical, very strong technical background, hiring people from the industry. In fact, when I joined Schindler in 2009, I was actually the odd man out. Like I had just done my MBA. I also did my mechanical engineering. But again, if I look at the profiling and the median age of most of the people in Schindler, most of them were in their early 40s. And I actually joined Schindler in my early 20s. So I actually was the odd man out. And for me, at that point of time, it was quite a challenge in terms of adjustment to a totally new corporate world, a totally new culture. So, but then I was part of one of the career fast track programs, the Schindler Career Development Program. I went overseas. I worked in South Africa for 5 years, then in Southeast Asia for 3 years. And then in 2019, which is December 2019 last year, I came back to India. Now, in these 7 years, Schindler India had gone through a major transformation. And when I say a major transformation, like this was in terms of uh, like looking at what's the real definition of a talent. So in 2012, or at the time when I was working for Schindler India, I think a talent was only considered as somebody who has a like a B school degree from one of the top B schools, or somebody who has an engineering degree from a top engineering school. But nobody actually thought about having people who come from the diversified background. Now, coming back to India in 2019, I saw a major evolution in terms of the thought process of how do we really just talent in the system now, because now I suppose diversity and inclusion also became a very, very critical topic for Schindler. In fact, Schindler Worldwide started this program of diversity and inclusion, and they started hiring a lot of females into operational roles, into leadership role, into strategic roles. They started looking at talents which was beyond elevator industry, which was beyond engineering industry. So in December 2019, when I took charge of this North, East, and Central India as a VP for field operations, I had to hire uh, talents for three very critical operational and strategic positions. So one was a sales manager role for Haryana, one was a service manager role, again in a big branch, and again one more role, operational role in again one of the bigger areas. So, and what surprised me that the CVs that came to me, unlike in previous years, were actually from a very diversified background. So I had CVs of army veterans, which actually came to me. In fact, the previous week I had gone to one of the IMs where I had addressed a batch of veterans. So even my perspective, so I had a certain mindset. So I also saw a major shift in my mindsets. I also realized if I have to be like prove myself as a leader in Schindler India, probably it's also time for me to adapt to this new cultural shift which the company is going through. So initially, as I was reluctant, I also had this mindset that probably for these roles I will prefer somebody from the industry. But as I started the process and I started interviewing some of the candidates, I realized some of the characteristics or traits that people from army bring is something probably that we might have to wait for years if we really try to develop in talents which we hire from some of the top B schools. For example, when you hire somebody from the army, he will come with the proven leadership skills. He will come with a lot of good communication skills, execution capabilities, and so many other traits. And so during this interview process, I actually realized probably it's time to make this investment. And I actually took this call of having 3 people from military background in 3 very strategic operational roles. So that was actually, I will say, a gamble, because never before Schindler had invested in military veterans like in these strategic roles. So first 3-4 months, I will say, uh, it was uh, I think it was a little bit difficult, because now it's not only about me as a leader, it's not only about Schindler as a company undergoing a cultural change, it's also about the people who work in the company. So company may take a call to have a cultural shift or mindset shift and start hiring veterans. However, the team which comes under them, if these team members are not mentally prepared to have somebody from a industry or from a background which is historically they which is not from our own industry, I think it actually they may create a lot of resistance. So first 3 months it was more about convincing our team members, making them feel that like the new leadership roles that where we have our military veterans, in fact these guys have actually come in terms of their own betterment and for the betterment of the organization. However, after 3 months, I realized the type of bonding and the type of skill set, the type of creativity that these veterans had brought to Schindler probably would not have been brought upon by some of the people from top B schools or some of the engineers. So that was one major cultural shift or mindset shift which I myself experienced. However, I must concede that we don't have as structured a program as what Amazon has. We are still facing some challenges. When I say challenges, there are still some resistance from our own team members, because not everybody can adapt so fast to such a big cultural shift. So we are, in a way, in my region, we are doing, it's like a pilot project where we have invested so much in military veterans in such leadership positions. But so far, the results have been quite fruitful. The team has started coming together. The type of discipline and the process orientation that we expected when we were hiring these military veterans, I think that's now also reflecting the organization. So overall, I will say the investment that we made has started bearing fruit. But again, it's probably a year from now we will be able to really say whether this experiment really bore the fruits that we really intended out of this exercise. So my suggestion, like having worked with the military veterans, especially in my region in leadership roles, would be please be prepared to unlearn some of the things that you have from your military background. Because again, remember, a lot of times when you mix with civilian, they might be overwhelmed when when they have a military veteran leading them. So it's very, very important that you make them feel that you are one of them, because and that's a very critical ingredient when it comes to leading a team of people. Second suggestion I will have is, when you are moving from military or to a corporate, you're not just leaving a job, you are leaving a way of life. So there might be also some personal challenges for you. So you should also be prepared in terms of tackling to handle those personal changes that might cause a lot of mental disruption as well. So these are, I think, 2 very, very critical ingredients if you really want to have a successful transition from military to a corporate world.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Akash. Very inspiring to know the entire company going through a mindset shift in terms of being open to hiring from veteran community, and then your own journey in terms of learning and imbibing and shifting your thought process as well. Thank you very much for those inputs. Quick reminder again, dear attendees, dear peers, dear leaders from other industries right here. Put those questions and comments into the comments section, please. We will be taking them up very shortly. So as you keep listening to people, please keep putting those questions that are into your mind. Don't be shy. It's a conversation after all, and we are all here to learn together. So with that, I move on to my next panelist. And before I do that, Shiv, thank you very much for pioneering the veteran mentoring program in India. It is a personal thing, and while I'm talking, my hackles are standing on end. But this is something that I've been meaning to say to you, and this is on a public forum that I acknowledge that this is something commendable, really. So thank you very much for that. With that, we all know that Lowe's is big on veteran hiring in the US. Now, what are the transition plans that you have for India? What has been the tangible takeaway of this 1 month into your veteran mentoring program? Anything that stands out? Any advice, any ups and downs that you might want to share towards career transition veterans from your personal and professional aspect? Over to you, Shiv. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you so much for the kind words. So, for the ones who have joined us, and I see a lot of familiar names in the participant list, so thank you so much for joining. Those who haven't heard of Lowe's, we are a $72 billion organization, a big box retailer back in the United States and Canada. And we have a global capability center in India, which caters to technology, analytics, and business operations. So that's in brief about who we are. So our veteran journey, has been, it dates back to when we were founded, because our founder himself was a World War veteran. So our relationship is, it goes back about 100 years, because we were established in 1921. So with that, like Preeti rightly mentioned, we have a very, very mature program in the US with about close to, I would say, 20,000 veterans working with us. But in India, we're still starting the program, and we're taking baby steps as we go. We're learning from other organizations who are who have a pretty much mature program. So, to answer Preeti's question in terms of our experiences with the mentoring program, and for those who are not aware of our mentoring program, what we have done is there are two ways to look at veteran transitions. One is employment, which is great, no two ways about it. The other bit being, if you are not able to provide employment, you can mentor them, you can help the veterans transition and make that process seamless. And that is the path that we took. Given the fact that we do not have our stores here, we may not be able to employ as many veterans as we would love to. So today we have about 60 veterans who are part of this particular program. We've divided that into two batches, wave 1 and wave 2. And in wave 1, we have 30 who are going through the mentoring program. And we have involved our senior leaders as a part of this particular program to mentor the veterans. It's going very well, I would say. Yes, there have been a few learnings, Preeti, certainly. We see that some veterans come to us proactively asking us for suggestions and how this particular process could be seamless for them. On the other hand, we are also a little disappointed, I would say, in a way, because though they have 4 hours of continuous mentoring that is available to them, people are not making use of it, and they are denying the opportunity to the other veterans who may otherwise have been a part of this particular program. So we've had a mixed bag of our experiences. Nevertheless, we continue to remain optimistic. We have wave 2 that is going to start. So my only suggestion to the panelists and to the folks who are attending from other companies is that it's not always about employment. If you could get your organization to participate in mentoring programs, I think that is also a good way to start. With that, I just want to jump into the 3 things that I want to speak about from a transition perspective. And I have been speaking with a lot of veterans in the last few months since we started the mentoring program, a little before that as well. First and foremost, I just want to be very clear, and I keep saying this, that recruiters love veterans, and there are no two ways about it. And we're very, very clear about it, as a talent acquisition organization. But the challenge that we face, and this is something that veterans need to keep in mind, is that you're not discoverable, and there needs to be better ways for you to be discoverable. Now, whether that is through getting your job descriptions redone, or it is about ensuring that you use the right kind of keywords. And the other challenge that I see is that the resumes are very, very non-recruiter friendly. They have words in them which recruiters, an average recruiter might not understand. So it becomes very, very difficult for files and from there. So that would be my first suggestion. And I think the other two panelists, Liju and Akash, have done a very good job in terms of explaining what are the other expectations. But I'm going to keep it extremely tactical so that you can take back a few things from the job description perspective and from the resume perspective. So keep your resume extremely recruiter friendly, and that would be my biggest recommendation, because there is this death by ATS that happens, and I think that is the reality of the world. So we need to ensure that the ATS understands the language, and that language again is something recruiters understand. So can't seem to stress more on that aspect. The second thing, I think Akash and Liju both touched upon this particular point, would be in terms of unlearning. I see a lot of that which is required, because during my conversations with veterans, what I see is there are a lot of titles which come in the way. That becomes a challenge in terms of either someone from corporate opening up or the veteran opening up, because I may be at an XYZ level in the Army or Air Force or whatever the case may be. But then it is about unlearning. It is about ensuring that you drop that particular baggage back and then transition. That becomes very, very important. The third thing, again, cannot stress on this enough, would be networking. And I think Liju spoke about it very, very well. A network, it's okay to ask for help. You may have been a very, very senior person in the Army or Air Force, but it is okay to ask for help. These kind of sessions, these kind of networking events really help. Reach out, it's perfectly fine. Corporate folks love helping veterans. So make use of those opportunities. And I think when we were having a discussion just before this particular session, one of the things that came up clearly is, will we get a lot of requests for jobs, etc.? The answer is that when you're approaching a corporate, look at networking, look at what are the things that you could do better, rather than just looking at it, fine, am I going to get a job with this from this particular HR person or from this particular gentleman or lady in the corporate. So I think keeping an open mind that you may not always have a conversation about a particular job, but in terms of how that person can help you maybe redo your CV or relook at things or prepare well for an interview, because it is that investment that will go a long way. So those are a few things that I wanted to mention, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Shiv. Absolutely brilliant as always. And quickly to reiterate here, thank you again for pioneering that mentoring program. I would just like to state that we at LinkedIn Local India have also been unofficially going through our own mentoring program, but I would take this opportunity to bring out that we are taking a leaf out of your book and Lowe's India's book, Shiv. And officially, we will be starting our own veteran mentoring program come August. So there will be notices, information out in the open. But I would like to announce at this time that thank you so much again, and we will follow suit and we will follow through. And here is an appeal to everybody else that is attending, even to the rest of the panelists here. Like Shiv said, you don't need to hire straight away. A good starting point would be to mentor veterans who are within your skill sets of hiring, who could be an asset 3, 6, 7, 10 months, 1 year down the line. So for a start, I totally agree with Shiv. Mentoring is the way to go, and that can possibly lead to other stuff. So thank you once again for that. A quick reminder to the attendees again, all those questions really important. Dear peers and industry leaders, those comments, those questions also important. Please keep putting them into the question and answer section. There are quite a few that are here, and we would like to take as many as possible. So without further ado, I'm over to Raman for his views. Thank you for your service, first of all, Raman. I know Amit is also a veteran here, but from the panel, you are the veteran. So that is why I have kept you for the end. So you can talk about from your own experience of being on both sides of the fence and your experience of being at several corporates, including a few others before Wells Fargo. So please, your advice. along with any personal and professional do's or do nots for the transitioning brothers and sisters. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you so much. Firstly, thanks for having me over onto your panel. And I mean, this is very close to my heart. I was telling the other day, I keep getting a lot of calls from the veterans, and I can never say no to them, right? Because I have been in this journey. I've had challenges in my corporate path. So I said, let me share my experience so that people can others can benefit out of it. Well, I'll keep it very short, relatively, and I'll probably would be happy to take on any pointed questions. Uh, Firstly, very shortly about myself. I spent about 25 years in the army. Took a premature retirement as a colonel. Commanded my unit, and thereafter, one fine day, I just decided that's it, and I quit the army. And thereafter, I've been in the corporate, and this was in 2012. This is technically my fourth job, but if you really ask me, it's the third one which I'm here. So what has happened? What happened is, as I told you, I had just for some personal reasons, I had to hang my uniform one fine day. I decided, and within a month, everything was, I was out. I was very lucky. I got a job pretty soon, but it it, it had a huge amount of challenges, both ways. Myself, from an adjustment point of view, and that was just 10% my point of view, but 90% from the organization point of view, because they never hired a veteran, and they just didn't know how to go about it and things like that. The employment part of it, the adjustment, the culture as to what the veteran brings to the table and things like that. So anyway, that was one part of it. And of course, thereafter, I've been in the other journeys. Of course, I spent about close to 2 years, and I've had some wonderful experience thereafter, wherever I've gone. And here I am in Wells Fargo today, and it is over 3 years. I'm based out of Hyderabad. So a little bit about Wells Fargo's journey about veterans hiring program, right? Uh, Wells Fargo is a 1.5 century plus organization, and it's a US bank, basically, for people who didn't know. And we don't have our active operations here, the front end banking operations. It's restricted within the US shores, but however, we have the back end technology support and things like that. So it's a huge organization in India, and in the US, we have an extremely robust and a long-lasting veterans hiring program. And the organization believes in diverse views to be brought in with the diverse experiences where the organization can gain from the veterans. What veterans bring to the table, the organization really, really values them from their experiences. And that's the ethos under which this entire program has been running in the US. So last year, uh, there was a thought process within the leadership in India that why not we also have a formal program? That's how in the early quarter 1 of 2019, we commenced a veterans program. Just to tell you, we were in single digit when we commenced. And of course, it was a huge work, and we were a couple of veterans then. We got together, brought a program, brought an entire plan in place, and thereafter we set about. And Nana is on I think she's one of the person who's on the program now. She's from a colleague of mine from the talent acquisition team. The team has done a wonderful job by building up the demand pool. First, you need to have a demand pool, right? To get into the supply, to start hiring. So when we went about the whole thing, I must tell you our USP of this program. The top management, we convinced our top management, the veterans, when I say veteran, we is the veterans, that we please do not format us to a security or a facilities or an admin job. They had faith in us, and I'll assure you, whatever hiring we did through this program, not a single veteran has been hired in these three categories. It has been in operations, risk management, technology, project management, process engineering, all these areas, and they're doing a wonderful job. And happy to tell you, we are close to half a century figure today with that program, right? So having said this, and somewhere in the mid of last year, when NASSCOM saw the success of Wells Fargo, they approached us with a help that if we can help them put a program in place so that the entire industry as a whole benefits out of it. So we took up that, and what we did was we went and spoke to the Army and the NASSCOM, and we finally enabled a partnership between the Army Welfare Placement Organization and NASSCOM, and it was that unique one, only a first of its kind. Veterans was added as the fourth pillar in NASSCOM in their National DNI Summit on 21st of October last year, which was held in Bangalore, right? So that is one, and I unfortunately I haven't been able to keep too much. I'm not too active that side because of my commitments within the organization, but I heard that it's doing pretty well there. Having said that, when we went about the talent pool which Naina helped us build, we looked at the entire spectrum of veterans. It's not only officer lot. We looked at even the non-officer cadre. And you'll be happy to know we have an equal mix of the officer and the non-officer cadre in this entire journey of 1 year plus, of course, today, right? So, and it has been pretty successful. I'm not saying we didn't have challenges. We did have challenges, right? But only thing is, because the veterans within the organization, we were there, we could take care, we could predict few things and took care, but still one or two things which we didn't expect, it stripped down the gaps, but we were quick to pick it up and put it on the right path. Having said that, I'd like to conclude with, a lot of my co-panelists have spoken about how to adjust and things like that. Two takeaways I would like to say. Please prepare yourself before you hang your uniform. That's my sincere request. I have faced it, and I do not want others to face it. When I say please prepare yourself, of course, God forbid, if there's an emergency, if someone has to leave, one can't do anything about it. But let me tell you, 95% of the people are the ones who prepare and leave, right? They do have visibility. Look at what your interests are. You cannot be saying that, you can't be shooting everywhere and say, let me try this, let me try that. It doesn't work that way in the corporate world. You have to choose what your interests are, right? And match the job demand, what the demand is all about. Please match that, develop your interest, prepare towards it. You'll be more successful outside for the initial break to get into the corporate world. I know it's very essential for people to keep that, have that job, because our kids are in such a state that they require the maximum support. When people come out at plus 40, and they do require, that is one. And the second one is, just for others, the veterans, co-veterans, I would say, the organization, our Army, Air Force, and Navy has multiple spans and layers. It's a pyramidal organization. In the corporate world, your spans and layers are very, very minimal. It's very flattened, right? You need to be prepared towards that, to accept it. You may have a guy, maybe an officer who retires at 42, 43, 45, may have a boss at 32, who's 32 or 35, right? but please don't undermine his age. Don't forget, he has some wonderful experience in the corporate world, and that's where he is, right? So these are the few things. I'm happy to take on any pointed questions. I would end here so that we can take on more questions rather than me getting into a monologue. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Raman. Absolutely scintillating. And the whole dynamics of you having witnessed it from both the ends makes it even more valuable, So, with that, a quick thing to the attendees and everybody else here. We are now at the live question and answer section. So, anybody still sitting on the fence in terms of putting down your questions, please do so now because we are starting the conversation. Before that, I am launching a poll now, so please take a couple of minutes during the course of the rest of the evening to address that because that will help us in doing much better next time if we have any shortcomings this time. So with this, I will hand the baton back to Vivek, who will start the proceedings for the live section, and we will take turns in addressing as many questions as we can today. Otherwise, Amit has actually pulled out all the links and put them onto the chat to connect to the panel. Please dive deeper, reach out, and have more conversations outside of this environment once we are done for today. So with that, it's over to you, Vivek. Thank you very much. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's start the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. So let's get started with our first question. The question is from Harshvardhan Srivastava. The question is for Liju. He asks, since Amazon India has been hiring veterans since inception through structured veteran hiring, started around a year back and presently has got a large number of veterans, how do you see veterans getting a different set of values to Amazon India? The reason to ask this is, what are those skills and values which should be sharpened more at our levels? In how much time do you expect a person to come into the driving seat for his role? That's the question for you, Liju.
Hey, thanks for that question, Harshvardhan. I'm going to attempt answering it. I don't think there is one answer for that, but as a company, our hiring is on leadership principles fit, right? So there are 14 behaviors which we believe is values of the company, what we call leadership principles, right? And we hire for that, right? And fit to that is what we look for in our assessment. It's very little about functional depth. It's very little about your prior background, right? So I don't have a particular thing to call out, but you would have, if you have heard me and some of the panelists out here, right? You would have seen that there are certain values that a veteran bring in, which applies to a corporate setup more than the others, right? In an Amazon context, it is about being obsessed on your customers. It's about your bias for action. It's about delivering results, right? And ability to adapt, right? These are things where we believe there is a strength that you bring in based on your training. And these are things that add immense value to our operating environment, right? There could be certain other things which, from your upbringing, your context, are areas which may be requiring some transitionary support, which as a company we are committed to give. But just trying to answer your question more directly, what I would index on is, right, be curious about the corporate life and what it means, right? Like a wealth of information was shared today. Be curious about the life in corporate and the transitions that you need to make, right? Prepare well for that. And in Amazon parlance, we call that learning and be curious, right? And that's what I would encourage you to do more as you get ahead for the transition.
Thank you, Liju, for that answer. I hope, Harsh, that answers your question. We will move on to the next question. I think this is quite relevant. The question is from Rakesh Prasad. He's asking, respected panelists, thank you for the golden words of wisdom. Consider myself lucky to be a part of this webinar. I wish to know what could be added as skill set tools and that can be learned, which would help an aspirant to fit into various roles in a corporate. That what he means is skills and tools which are relevant across all kinds of roles. This is a bit of a generic question, but I would like somebody to take this up. Shiv, would you or Venkat, would you like to take up? Any one of you?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think I touched upon this earlier when in my closing point when I spoke. It is not about A, B, C, D skills which can fit all, right? It can never happen. Honestly speaking, the kind of skill sets which veterans bring, the base is already set. All the corporates value the baseline, right? Like Liju was trying to say, they're looking at that specific 14 qualities which they want. It is eventually the organization's need, right? And it should not be that, okay, I will have those 4 or 5 skill sets and anywhere I can go. It doesn't work that way. One has to, that's exactly what I said. Please see what is in demand in the market. What are your interests? Look at 2 to 3 interests where you want to pursue. Obviously, a demand could be few, which if it doesn't interest you, you will not be able to, put yourself fully there, and you may not be successful there, right? And the organization also may not benefit out of it. It has to be mutually beneficial for a person to be successful. So my suggestion is, you cannot say that these are the 4 or 5 skill sets where everywhere I can go and fit. It doesn't work that way. I'm keeping my answer short. Yeah. If someone else wants to add, please do so.
Thank you so much, Venkat. The next question is from Pranav Prashar. The question is for Shiv. He's asking, how does a veteran break the cliche of veterans only going towards the traditional roles of security and admin? Shiv, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you now. So, is the question, how does a veteran break traditional roles of security and admin?
That's correct.
For that question, I think we have, we discussed that. So first and foremost, yes, that is how it is viewed in the industry until unless, you come from specific areas, let's say cybersecurity, or anything to do with software development, etc. And from a Lowe's perspective, yes, all the veterans that we have are predominantly in the cybersecurity space because they're phenomenal at it. So I think different organizations view it differently. And the one thing that I would like to add is that most of the job descriptions that I view are extremely generic, and they are automatically inclined towards security, administration, and other areas. So if, like Raman was mentioning, if you have specific interests, then you need to create your resumes accordingly so that the recruiter looks at it in that particular manner. Today, the challenge is that most of the folks that I speak with have project management, operations, security, so on and so forth mentioned, and rather in bold. And that is what attracts the recruiter. So the recruiter will see only what you want to show on that particular resume. So I would say it's your responsibility what you want to show the recruiter.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Shiv.
Can I add a word here?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll give an example. See, one needs to know what exactly probably the corporate is looking for. I'll give an example. We are looking at risk management roles, right? process engineering roles, operations. What are these? Operations, if you really see, there a set number of processes which we have to follow diligently. It's as simple as that, right? And it doesn't take much to understand those processes and ensure that it is diligently followed. Of course, I'm putting it very plain and simple. That's one. Risk management. Every decision you take right when you join the academy, stroke as a recruit in a training center, all your decisions are based on thorough risk management. If you have to launch an operation, so imagine the amount of risk management you do, the risk mitigation measures you take. All those combined, you come to a decision making. This is ingrained into us, right? But I don't see people coming into the risk roles, applying to the risk roles, right? This is the gap of understanding, I would like to say. It's very easy to build up on a risk. I'm giving you an example. What is a process engineering? We are made to do write SOPs on various aspects in the Army, Air Force, and Navy. That's nothing but process engineering, right? You need to understand what exactly it is outside in the world. Again, I'm saying probably I don't blame anyone. Even I was like that. Probably you could reach out to few people, like a fellow veterans or people like Shiv who are mentoring, right? And ask, what are these? Do I fit in? If I want to fit in, what are these? Right? Of course, today I'm telling about, a couple of them. And okay, I'll give you an example. Initially, when we took about, of course, one of the risk management roles, uh, the business leader was a little hesitant, and I don't blame him, right? He took our word, and he took two individuals in the first set of our what shall I say, hiring. Within 3 months, he says, I want 4 more. And they didn't have any risk background, the initial lot. Right? So what I'm trying to say is the gap also exists. I'm not disputing. The corporate also needs to understand what exactly it is. And I don't blame Liju or anyone for that matter, because obviously they're not aware of it also. So there needs to be a combined effort somewhere, but more effort needs to be put in by the veteran himself. Sorry, coming in between.
Sure. Thank you, Venkat, for these great points. The next question is quite relevant to the current times. Rajiv Sharma is asking this question. Is it the right time to transition to the corporate world, or is it worth delaying about a year or two when the market stabilizes and hiring picks up? Quite relevant question. Anyone who would like to take this up, please?
Maybe I can answer this, Vivek.
Please, Akash.
Yeah. If you ask me, this is actually the best time for veterans to actually corporate, because currently what the corporates are looking at somebody, as I think Mr. Raman was saying, as somebody who's actually quite adept in terms of risk handling and risk management. So if I have to hire, if there's ever a best time for you to join a corporate, I think it's now, because now people are looking at, in terms, corporates are looking at optimizing headcounts. They are looking at people who can bring a totally new, different set of skills to the organization, people who can actually lead the teams together. And one very important criteria, which I think veterans bring to the organization, is their entire premise from the army is based on the foundation of teamwork. And when you join corporates, a lot of times veterans initially take some time to adjust, because there are some individuals in a corporate which might look at their own self-interest. And this may actually lead to some team disharmony. And that's the reason which I sometimes feel that when you have a veteran and whose leadership or whose premise is based on a solid teamwork, they can actually carry the team along in times of crisis like this. So I will in fact suggest that this is the best time for you to actually take a deep dive and join a corporate, because I think this is now that we really need your skills.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Akash, for that. Amit, over to you.
Thank you, Vivek. Akash, fully endorse what you said there about the challenges require leaders who can rise up to those challenges. The question which comes out, and I'm taking Abraham Sherian's question here, that how do you get the veterans out of their comfort zone and to understand these challenges the way the corporates want them to be handled? How do they understand the job requirements, the culture shift that most of the panel focused on? The question is, what do you think companies would want to do for internship programs, even if they are unpaid, to sort of help the veterans transition? If Akash, you would want to take on that question.
Sorry, Amit, like, as I mentioned, like for Schindler, we are still taking baby steps. Like we started hiring veterans only in 2020. So in terms of any special onboarding program for veterans, that's something that is still a work in process. However, like, as I mentioned during my feedback, like veterans also are doing a lot of unlearning and learning. We also as an organization are also doing a lot of unlearning as well as learning, because having 6 veterans in my team start of this year, we have realized that we need to do a lot of homework, because like the veterans come with certain expectations, and when these expectations and the reality they don't meet, it actually leads to certain amount of discontent, and which you can only address when you have proper structured processes and systems in place. So this is one thing that we have learned very fast in last 6 months, that if we really want to have this veteran hiring as a sustainable program, we really need to have special onboarding programs which cater to the needs of veterans. So from Schindler perspective, I must say that we have taken a baby step, and we still have to really come out with a structured uh, veteran onboarding program.
Okay, thank you, Akash. My next question is coming to you, Shiv. The question is a combination of what Ashutosh and Manish have asked. This is basically about upskilling and doing these online courses for academic qualifications. Ashutosh specifically mentions Coursera, whether it is any good, and Manish Anand is asking that how do you select which academic qualification will get you more aligned to a corporate understanding, and how far do you think HR even considers these 1 month or even 1 day or in some cases 1 hour courses?
Question. Thank you for that, Amit. So this is my view, and please feel free to share yours as well. What is a certification? To me, certification is an endorsement of the knowledge that one possesses, right? So if one does not possess knowledge that is applied, and then we learn from it, and then we are going to merely get certificates for it, my answer would be absolutely no. Spare yourself the money, spare yourself the time. It's not really going to help. And Coursera is great. I mean, I'm not saying Coursera is not good. It's amazing, and so are the other platforms. But at the end of the day, if you just imagine you're sitting in front of the recruiter, and then you have 50 certifications on your resume, and then the recruiter, the hiring manager is asking you questions related to them, and then you have no idea in terms of what it really means, but it's there from a certification perspective, then your candidature is actually not going anywhere. And it's not just for veterans. I think it is common across, whether you're a veteran or not. Certification is just an endorsement of your knowledge. If you have the knowledge, go get yourself a certification. Great, sounds good, so on and so forth. Having said that, it is also important that if you want to continuously learning agility is important. But then do not, my view personally is that, do not think that, the certification is going to, get you the job. It's about the application of that knowledge that's going to get you the job. Yeah, that's my view. Liju, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, very similar views, Shiv. In fact, with due respect to all course material available, I think unless it's a deep functional expertise area, right? You're into a certain tech domain, or you're in, say, a domain like a machine learning or deep business analytics, research analytics kind of a profile, right? In those domain expertise areas, courses add value to your progression and your opportunities, right? But I would say the availability of opportunities is significantly different, right? More and more, the positions are generic. It commands or demands generic skills, right? So courses do not add much value to your progression, right? I just want to connect a few things which Raman and Shiv said through the course of the interaction. Make a choice of what's your passion, what's the area that you want to gun towards, right? Be curious, and you already have basic skills. Once you make that choice, explore that area, connect with people in that area, right? And that curiosity and building up your awareness of that area is much more valuable than going and chasing a niche skill, right? So that's what I would do.
Thank you for that, Liju. And I think this is something which has been happening on LinkedIn through the lockdown. People are mighty proud of these certificates. In fact, nowadays we are getting certificates for attending webinars. We will not be giving out a certificate today, most definitely. And what I had said was that you cannot collect feathers and make an elephant fly. The elephant is more in tune with the weight that he carries. Now, for a veteran, Liju, the next question is coming on to you. The veteran is coming out with a lot of experience. The question which has come in, and it's coming from Zahel Tantra, and also quite similar from Pranav Parashar, they have a particular skill set. For example, Zahel is asking about logistics domain, that he knows what he is good at. He is good at supply chain, logistics. How does he bring these transferable skills and convince a corporate to have a look into the system? Would you be able to sort of help these two gentlemen there?
I think I may come across as a broken record throughout this interaction, but so be it, right? As I said, we hire for leadership profile, leadership principles fit or value fit, and most companies do, right? So it's not about your background, it's not about your age. We are an equal opportunity employer, right? It is about how fit are you to the values that this company espouses, right? And and I would say the base is set, and I just keep going back to what Raman said. The base is set for you, right? Now the whole thing is, how much are you willing, and how much are you willing to make tweaks to what you have done in the past, adjust it for a new environment, and move on, right? What I would encourage again is, make your choices of what areas you want to go into. Companies will seek you out, right? And opportunities are plenty, right? So I would say focus on the basics, focus on the fundamentals.
I think that sort of puts it in perspective. And my next question is to Venkat. The question is twofold. The first one is again from Manish. He's basically pointing out that most of the corporate centers or even the activities clustered around these 4 or 5 major centers: Bangalore, Gurgaon, Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad. When you look at the work from home scenario, how do you think senior management roles will fit in? He's also asked the same question from Amazon, and I'll come to Lizu again for the same thing. How do you foresee senior management roles in the work from home paradigm as it has come out in the lockdown? Venkat, and then Liju.
Thanks. I think again there is a misconception of a senior management and a junior guy, right? COVID does not differentiate between a senior management and a junior management or a junior role, right? God forbid if someone has to get it, it is across the spectrum. So work from home today applies to everyone, right? And today, as I know in the market, I don't think any major corporate or any organization has come back more than maybe about 5 to 10% or 15% max, maybe depending on that, whatever little I know about. I'm talking about IT sector. I'm not talking about industrial or pharma and things like that. I'm talking about core ITES companies. Now, what has happened due to this huge pandemic effect, which and it is global. Earlier we had pandemic, but it was region specific. So what, from a BCP perspective, other regions used to take on the work. Now this is across the globe, unfortunately. Now, what happens is the organizations have pushed, what is the way? Organization can't shut down. So the only way is to work. And the only way here is work from home. Now, this work from home is across the spectrum of an organization, right? From a fresher to the topmost management. Now, the moment you push the work from home, what happens is there's a certain amount of risk involved, right? Because your home environment, from a risk perspective, is a little lesser. When I say not less riskier, it's a little higher risk, right? That is the reason people never used to give work from home, not encourage. Of course, there's a culture aspect also, team building, team interaction, better decision making, and all that, blah, blah, blah. So this is not, as for me, it's not going to be the future, right? It has to end somewhere. It could be 6 months, it could be 1 year, it could be 1.5 years, right? So the work has to go on. So thinking that the senior management, in case the organization has to hire, it doesn't matter whether you are working from home, whatever is today's scenario, maybe, okay, let's say someone is hired in November, whatever be the scenario at that time, he or she will be made to work that way. So it does not have to necessarily be that, okay, oh, there's a work from home, so we will not hire senior management. I'm sorry, I don't think it works that way. Liju, you could add in case there's anything more.
No, perfect. I think you reiterated the big message. It's not about senior management, junior management. I think the nature of role drives the decision in our context, right? There is a large part of Amazon that is tech oriented, that can be work done from home, right? And they're fully enabled to work from home, and that's a big part of Amazon. There is another part of Amazon which is shipping products to customers, right? You cannot do that from home, and we are taking adequate safety measures, and everybody, including the site leader of that facility to the associate on the floor, joins work every day in that facility with adequate safety measures, right? So nature of role drives those decisions, and less about this or the org structure.
Thank you. And here I would request the attendees we have a lot of questions. We are covering them. Please come out with more, because I see Gautam Nath has given out about 4 or 5. So the numbers are looking up, but we need more participation from some of our other attendees who would be having queries. And if Pranav can hear me, we would definitely want to interact with you on that elevator pitch thing. Preeti, would that be okay? Okay, I'm going on to Akash now. This question is coming in from Gautam, and what he's asking is, how do you make yourself discoverable? The ATS part was covered by almost everyone on the panel, but what are these skills that you can put on that resume to make yourself discoverable? He's giving a point here that whether it is Internet of Things, data science, AI, are they something that a veteran coming out with, say, a 40 or 50-year age, are these skills even relevant? Would they add to his resume and make it more discoverable? I would request for your views, and then I'll come on to Shiv for this.
I think Mr. Raman answered this question beautifully. I think because I remember that he said, like, instead of shooting in all the directions, you should actually know are you really aspiring for, what is your real skill set is. And it's not about really, like, if I have to add, I will say it's not really about your skill set. You must look at what is the exact requirement coming from the employer. And then you should have transferable skills which you can transfer from your own skill set into like the skill sets of your particular role, which is required by the employer. So if the employer is able to see the value of it, then I suppose they will clearly see you as an asset for the organization, and not like somebody who is like trying to sell more of his own personal skill set there.
Thank you for that, Akash. Shiv, if we can have your opinion on how to get across this ATS monster or friend.
Sure. So, I think, Raman and Akash covered majority of it. Just one thing that I'd like to add, and that is most of the times when I speak with veterans have one particular resume, which is like a superset of all these skills and the experience that they have had in the services, and they put everything in there, with words which, of course, recruiters do not understand because they are extremely specific to defense. So first and foremost, drop the jargon. Just the way I was looking at one question here, that we do not understand what the corporate jargon is. It's the same thing. Recruiters do not understand what the defense jargon is. So it works both ways. Drop that, make it as simple as possible. And like I was mentioning, do not think that a superset of all the skills is going to help. If you are applying for an operations role, you need to speak the operations language. If you're applying for a project management role, that needs to be the resume that's going in there. So that's the only way a superset kind of a resume might not help.
Thank you again for that, Shiv. I think the message which is going out from the panel to the attendees is to play to your strengths. You cannot paper over something by getting a certificate or a new-fangled buzzword just to get noticed. You will get noticed for what you are good at, and the transferable skills, as again the panel has been focusing on. Maybe that is a conversation which we need to do as to what are these transferable skills and how they will sort of change from a person to person perspective. Over to Preeti for the balance QA.
Thank you for that, Amit. Thank you very much. Get ready, because I am going to be coming to you after a couple of questions. There is this special surprise that has been prepared for everybody here, but on to that later. Before that, I will come to a peer sort of question. So here is our dear friend Vinay Trivedi, who's the head of HR at Tone Tag. And this question, I would like Shiv and Akash to address, please, because you have had some experience around this. So Vinay goes, we keep saying how veterans need to unlearn and relearn. While a transition always needs some sort of an unlearning, should corporates not have transitioning programs for employees to help welcome a veteran? Shiv, I will come to you with that, and then I will move on to Akash after. Over to you, Shiv.
Yes, Vinay, there is no right answer to this particular question. It needs to work both ways, and it is what are you trying to change? That would be my recommendation. So let me give you an example of what we did at Lowe's. Maybe that'll help. So we started our journey. As far as veteran hiring goes, we hired 3 people in the last few months and at senior levels. So instead of trying to boil the ocean, and trying to get employees to understand how to work with a veteran, we had the veteran buddy with somebody who from the US who was a veteran and then transitioned, so on and so forth. So that helped the team, that helped the veteran understand what are the couple of things which may be required. And of course, it was also a good learning session for the team, wherein we did let the team know that there is a veteran who's going to be leading, and here are a few things that veterans do extremely well, and that is something that you need to learn from them, rather than saying that, hey, you need to adjust because they may not come with that kind of skill set. So that is how we worked with the employees, and right now everything is going fine, touch wood, and that's been our our experience.
Thank you for that, Shiv. Akash, from your own experience at being at Schindler, what would you say made a difference? Over to you.
I think like what we have probably realized as an organization in the last 6 months is one special skill set which the veterans bring to the table is I think the art of storytelling. I have a lot of veterans in my team, and I see them as great communicators, especially like in town halls when the teams are down during crisis times, and the amount of emotion that they are able to ignite in the team by retelling some of their life stories is something which is totally unparalleled. So I think that is something we need to unlearn as an organization, because sometimes we tend to cite case studies from Harvard Business School, which most of the people may not be able to correlate to. However, when it comes to veterans, I think the amount of emotional connect that these life stories can bring about is, I think, something which is unparalleled. So I think I have started doing this as well. We have some of the audience members who actually are currently part of Schindler. They are in leadership roles, and they actually are adding a huge value in terms of bringing the teams together through the art of storytelling. So that is something that I'm actually intentionally trying to change within my organization, is to actually make use of their experiences and through life stories to evoke very strong emotions in my team.
Very, very logical and very practical example, I must say. I think everybody can take a leaf out of that. Storytelling is something which speaks to a lot of people. It touches straight to the heart. So I think a lot of perceptions and a lot of good communication can happen that way. So thank you so much for that, Akash. Moving on to the next question. This is targeted to Liju and Raman both. Here is Deepika Rathore saying, how does one approach organizations for veteran hiring program? Is it as simple as writing an email, visiting the office? Liju, I will come to you first and then move on to Raman for that.
Sure. I think the more and more hiring is happening through personal contacts and connects, right? Uh, as I would say, map out your areas, map out your organization that you're increasing, build your networks and connects. And LinkedIn is a powerful platform to get network with the right people out there, right? Uh, I think LinkedIn has disrupted the way hiring is done. So I think use the power of social networks for getting hired, right? From a company perspective, right, we work a lot with through partnerships, right? Whether it be with the DGR, whether it is with the AWPO, with the Naval Placement Agency. So we have established connects at that level to set up a programmatic way of connecting with people who are retiring from the service, right? And then uh, getting the information out to them and using those platforms to hire as well, right? So, but I would say, that is companies finding you, but I think you can seek out companies, you can seek out this being active on the social networks, right? So that's what I would leave you with.
Thank you so much for that, Liju. Over to you, Raman, for your inputs, please, on this. Thank you.
I think Liju covered it all. I would just add on what different approach we are doing. The whole of last year, we had an approach as for, I told you, we as a strategy, we looked at the officer and the non-officer cadre. And the officers cadre, we basically looked at the IIMs where they were passing out, and we went there and we did the hiring. And the last one we did was, I think, in IIM Ahmedabad, and that was almost online because of this pandemic issues, and naval placement agencies, AWPO, and things like that. But after this pandemic and the current situation, our target, the talent acquisition team has been doing a wonderful job. Even though we do not have any specific program per se to call that, okay, these are the openings for veterans, we keep all our open positions open for veterans too. And as Liju was saying, that if through LinkedIn and personal connects, I keep getting so many people approaching me and sending the resumes and things like that. I tell them, look at our website first, see where your skill set matches, apply for it, and send it to us. And then what we do is we send it to the hiring manager and the talent acquisition team manager and things like that, and they take it ahead from there, depending on the matching, whatever matches the skill sets.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We have just about time enough. I am going to read out a couple of questions, but we will not be able to address them now because this is all the time we have. And there is one last activity before we go. But my goal is to get these questions answered via email to the respective people. I take on the responsibility of having that done. But I would still like to read them out here because I think they're pretty relevant. So here is Niharika, and she goes, Raman, you mentioned that the veterans recruited did not have a background in risk management. The challenges that we face are that the JD posted asks for qualifications or past experiences in risk management. What would one do in such a case? So it's that conundrum of, leveraging experience without any certification kind of a thing. I will come to all the panelists for their views on this, not just Raman. So thank you, Niharika, for posting that. Then our own lady officer, Dr. Major Rupinder Kaur, she says to all, it was great to hear about Colonel Raman's association with NASCOM and Army headquarters. Considering the fact that there are multiple stakeholders in this entire process of transitioning, including the veterans, corporates, IIMs, DGR, what kind of policy decisions do you recommend which can bring about a substantial and sustainable integration of veterans in the mainstream? Thank you for that, Rupinder. We will definitely get all the panel views on this because you've addressed it to everyone. There are a couple more. So Gautam, Harshvardhan, please just bear with me. We'll get you those answers. Last but not the least, just before we close, one of our transitioning veterans, short service commission officer, he was very, his learning curve is really sort of very exponential. So, he came up with a suggestion or maybe a request, I would say, and said, how about me trying out a 1 minute elevator pitch? Elevator pitch is about less than 60 seconds. So he said, okay, you can, and please say it out loud here, but you're not getting a job right then and there because it's not a job fair. And the feedback we will get to you later, not today, because obviously, again, we're out of so much of time. So Pranav, here is your cue. I am coming to you. Get ready. Hang on a minute. Let me find you where you are. And you are allowed to talk about now. Pranav?
Hi. Hello, Preeti ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Amit is keeping time. Your time starts now.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Major Pranav Prashar, and I am of the firm belief that the best is yet to come. And it has been an outstanding and challenging 11 years which I've spent in the Army, from dealing with multiple international stakeholders in a complex global environment as part of the UN, also conducting highly mission-critical operations and heightened crisis situations while leading cross-functional teams in Pulwama, South Kashmir. Also executing multi-million-dollar projects and international events. I'm a mission-oriented and a dynamic team player who possesses excellent interpersonal and communication skills, which have resulted in simplification of extremely volatile situations. I have also been awarded and appreciated multiple times, both in India and abroad, and I've been bestowed with challenging appointments on the go. Wherever I've gone, I've made a difference and boosted the productivity through creative and innovative solutions, be it people management, process improvement, embracing tech and change management. Concluding, I'll just say that I'm looking forward to the new phase of life, continuously learn, challenge the status quo, and given the best wherever I go. Thank you, LinkedIn Local India, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. Well done, Pranav. You were sort of just within that 1 minute. With that, we actually come to a close of this evening, and it's time for all our thanks. So first of all, thank you very much to the attendees. Thank you for taking out your valuable time. Thank you to the speakers, my friends here, our co-hosts, Vivek Chadha, who's VC, and Amit Verma, retired AV. Thank you very much for that. Couple of quick sort of heads ups. Next up, we have Veteran Spotlight by Preeti Chaudhary on Monday, July 27 at 9 p.m. via my LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn Local Gurgaon will be hosting Entrepreneurship Developing Future Leaders on Tuesday, July 28 on Zoom. Then we are back again with Psychological and Emotional Wellbeing on 29th Wednesday at 7 p.m. via Zoom. So there you are, all updated. Thank you once again. Have a very good evening. Until next time, please do take good care. Good night.